Two casinos, high rollers bet more than $55 million a day. Is it any wonder that casinos treat them like royalty? But the truth is a number of high rollers are nothing like royalty. They're gangsters. And the money they put on the table are the profits of crime. And yet little is done about it. Why? Well, we can only speculate, but governments are gambling addicts, addicts to the tax money they get from gambling. And in this case study, Rodney Lose looks at the background of some of the high rollers who've used Melbourne's Crown Casino as a second home since it's been open.
This is Melbourne's central shopping district, where you don't have to look too hard to find heroin users and sellers. It might seem a million miles from the glitz and glamour of the Crown Casino, but you'll be amazed at the link.
He was actually a triad experiment in that he was a very senior triad figure in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is traditionally where a lot of Australia's heroin comes from, via the triads. And basically the triads, like any business, were getting a bit fed up of having to pay off too many middlemen and people at the lower end of the heroin production scale.
The ringleader of one of Australia's biggest heroin distribution networks was Ko Kon Tong. His headquarters was room 2705 of Crown Towers. He was a privileged guest, what's known as a high roller, a big gambler. It was from in here, inside Crown Towers, that Ko Kon Tong ran his heroin distribution empire. He would have the drugs delivered in a car to a car park downstairs. Then he'd watch that car through his window, sometimes for days, making sure the police weren't onto him. Once he thought the coast was clear, he'd call in his gang members to put those drugs onto Melbourne streets. Then he'd simply sit back and wait for the money to roll in. And roll in it did. In the year or so that he lived here, he bought more than $40 million in casino chips and turned over more than $416 million on Crown's casino tables.
There's also a fair bit of evidence gained from bugs that were placed on phones and in rooms in Crown Towers that he was also using the casino, the Mahogany Room in particular, to touch base with people that wanted to buy heroin.
Keith Moore is an award-winning journalist with the Herald Sun.
I don't know that anybody looks too hard into the backgrounds of the people that are playing at Crown.
And that's a serious problem. It's no secret that amongst the pampered guests that enter the Mahogany Room, the inner sanctum for high rollers, are serious criminals. The type of people that if you knew who they were, you'd run. But inside the Mahogany Room, they're treated like royalty. And Ko Kon Tong is a case in point.
He very rarely moved out of it. You know, he ate there, he got massages there, he slept there. If he did go out, and often it was to a big sporting event that Crown were feeding him to, he would just walk out of the front, get in a Crown limousine, be taken to, you know, a very nice box seat at a sporting event at the MCG. During the course of the police investigation, Crown had to reveal what they did for high rollers like KK, and it emerged during the trial that high rollers actually get a percentage of their turnover.
Ko Kon Tong made money at Crown even when he lost at the tables.
Overall, he lost 1.1 million on the tables, but Crown paid him 2.5 million, putting him 1.4 million ahead.
A National Crime Authority investigation finally caught Ko Kon Tong, and he was sentenced to 16 years jail. Then there's the case of another high roller, Chia Tek Leng. He stole and stashed $190 million. That's right, $190 million into a Crown casino account. He was known to bet $400,000 a hand and lose up to $10 million a gambling session. All the time living it up on the 39th floor with private butlers and panoramic views. Leng is now serving 42 years in Changi Jail, Singapore.
We know that casinos are historically an avenue for people with hot money, drug money, money from ill-gotten gains.
Professor Linda Hancock, a former Law Reform Commissioner, was chair of the state government's Independent Gaming Research Committee. The committee was scrapped and research is now done in-house by public servants who are anything but independent.
Really, government has a conflict of interest. It is so reliant on the revenue flow that you cannot expect that those public servants aren't going to come under some sort of pressure to at least stay quiet.
Because the state government is possibly the biggest gambling addict of them all. And the casino's spin doctor, Gary O'Neill, is quick to remind them of it.
We've contributed something like $2.5 billion to government revenue.
And the government, until recently, hasn't asked too many questions about the gamblers who are blowing that money. You've met a couple of the international crooks, but we have plenty of our own who love spending their time and money at Crown Casino.
Irrefutable that many of Melbourne's major crime figures do go to Crown and are regulars there in the Mahogany Room.
Mick Gatto was a member of Crown's exclusive Mahogany Room, but he hasn't been able to visit for a while. He's in jail, awaiting trial for the murder of another gangster, Andrew Benji Veneman. The attempt on another regular, Graham the Munster Kinnebra, was successful, and the mob boss forfeited his Mahogany Room membership when he was gunned down in front of his house in 2003.
It's clear the man has been ambushed and executed.
And the list goes on. Too many known criminals frequent Crown to mention. But what we can't leave out is these shady characters aren't averse to making threats when things don't go their way at the tables. We already know Sam Newman's victim was threatened with death by gangsters. We've been told it wasn't isolated, and that female croupiers have been threatened with rape after dealing a gambling gangster a bad hand.
People have always wondered what Crown do for their high rollers. Most of us think just about anything, and it turns out that was actually quite right.
The defendant and a Crown Casino staffer picked up Ms Taylor from a brothel in a casino limousine that Crown helped organise the liaison.
But you would expect Crown staff to draw the line at arranging prostitutes for high rollers. But arranged they have, and were caught when the prostitute they organised for one high roller, Michelle Taylor, took her high-rolling client's $1 million watch.
Ms Taylor has pleaded not guilty to theft and will face court again in April.
The Victorian Commission for Gambling Regulation has yet to lift a finger to discipline Crown, even though it said it would investigate in June last year. Hard to understand what's to investigate when the staff have already provided details to the police over a year ago. Our request to speak to Gambling Commissioner Peter Cohen were refused.
The government's going to be, I think, somewhat apprehensive about threatening a major supplier of their income.
Melbourne University gambling researcher Professor Alan Jackson too has suffered